Hi, my name is Amber Moore, and today we're going to be talking about who should be responsible for creating a school's mission and vision statements. This is going to be for EDL 852. The first thing that we're going to look at is just a summary of the case study itself. Susan Potter is a new middle school principal at Lyteville Community School District. She was a recent hire. They're in the process of building a new middle school, and Susan has been hired to complete a few things over the course of the next year before the new building is complete. She'll be responsible for making staffing decisions for the building, determining curriculum and activities, collaborating with architects and construction managers, and finally, she's also in charge of developing and leading an advisory committee. So looking at the demographics of the school, it's a rural community and 60% of its residents live on farms. The district enrollment has been increasing by about 2% each year for the last few years. When it was originally presented to the community to build a new school, there was a couple of other options. And so at that time, the community had been divided into three factions. And then finally, they did vote to build the new middle school, but it was actually only approved at a 53% to 47%, which showed that the community was pretty divided about building a new middle school. So some of the key players in this case study are Susan Potter. She is a new hire as the middle school principal, and she really is conflicted about what the team wants and her own personal beliefs. Joe Rawlings is the Lyteville Community School District Superintendent who really appears to be confident in Susan's team and her decision-making process. Helen Burke is a member of the committee. She is a general education teacher who really does support Susan, but supports her in the development of the mission and vision statement independently. I think it's important to remember, too, that her brother is also currently an active school board member. And then another individual on the committee is Dan Kelby. He is a PE teacher in the district, and he too supports the idea that Susan should develop the school's mission and vision statements. So really what we're looking at now is kind of the dilemma. Along with Helen and some other community members, they have been charged with the task of developing the school's mission and vision statements. But after some deliberation, the team feels that Susan Potter should be in charge of developing those statements independently, creating a rough draft, and then bringing it back to the team. However, Susan feels that the development of the statement should be a collaboration, and she would like to develop them as a team. Susan is unsure how to convince her team that the best option is to develop the mission and vision statements together, as opposed to her just developing them and then bringing what she creates to the table. So developing a mission and vision statement, when we look at it, it should be collaborative. The role of the administrator is to develop the team and to lead by example. Their role is not simply to just come up with a mission and vision statement and say, here you go, this is what we're going to do. But in order for a vision and mission statement to be successful, it must include the core values of all stakeholders. When a statement is developed solely by an individual, it tends to be more biased towards that individual's core values as opposed to the core values of all stakeholders at this point. So there are some options that Susan can look at when deciding what's going to be best for the team and ultimately what's going to be best for the school district. So the first option that I think she should consider is to continue to lead the team and direct them in developing the vision and mission statements. The pros to this would be the ethical process in the development of the vision and mission. This really sticks to the process and the fidelity of the process. The statements would be well-rounded and they would include all of the stakeholders. And the reality is there's still time to work out any issues if any were to arise. Some of the cons that might occur during this time is the team may continue to be reluctant to follow the plan of developing it as a group. In a small community, there's a possibility of backlash. People are very close to one another, and they definitely talk outside of the school building. And and honestly, if she's forcing people to do something that they really don't want to do, she could damage some relationships. The other option that we can consider is to speak with the superintendent and ask for his support in leading the committee towards a collaborative development of the statements. I think the pros with this would be kind of a display of a united front from the administration side of things. And Susan would really have this additional support that she may need in order to implement the collaborative process. The cons of this, however, is the superintendent may feel that Susan's not equipped to do her job, and it might actually isolate her further from the committee. Then we have option 3. So when we look at this option, explain it, really what we're looking at is just kind of explaining that the committee is not going to work, disband and develop a new committee. With that being said, I think it's important that she would still include several of the current members on other decisions of the new building, curriculum, activities, those types of things. The pros of this would be a fresh group of individuals that may not have the same views, and really be willing to collaborate. They will develop a mission and vision with true integrity. They will follow the process, and really have a good mission and vision. The cons to this, however, is it really may damage some of the relationships that she's already created with these committee members. And the reality is she could create a new committee and run into a similar issue. So, this is a really good time to consider utilizing the decision-making process because it is a big decision to figure out how she's going to go about this. When we look at the problem, really it's just the advisory committee feels that Susan's responsible for the development of the vision and mission. But by doing that, it takes away from the integrity of the development of that process. So if she can gather some information, asking the team, why do they feel so strongly about not participating? They did mention that maybe it was because they wouldn't get along or they would never, if everybody talked about the different things that they want to work on within the school district and those types of things, that it would never end. And are they willing to compromise and work together? Then she needs to consider her 3 options. So after she has, asked the questions she needs to ask and she has decided, she will need to choose one of those 3 options. And then looking at initiating the plan. She may choose to educate the committee on the importance of collaboration and hopefully win them over, or she will need to consider redeveloping the team. That's kind of the plan that I think that she should stick to, that would give her the best results. And then at the end of the day, this is also a good time for Susan to do some self-reflection on her decision and really look at the progress of the decision that she had made. So what would I do? As a future leader, I think one of the first things I would do is try to meet with Helen on an individual basis to discuss the importance of collaboration when developing a mission and vision. I think that Susan really, really needs to emphasize this. And then I would also do something else differently at the next meeting. I would start by developing team norms. And I think through that process of developing those norms as a team, then maybe the committee itself will be able to see really how important it is and how valuable their input is when they provide that in creating something new like team norms. As a last resort, honestly, I would turn this committee into something else, and I would seek out individuals who would be willing to create a school's vision and mission statement. There are people who would love to take part in that, and maybe, at the end of the day, Susan needs to look for like-minded people. Finally, what's the justification for all of this? And really what it boils down to is how can we promote the well-being of every child and adult if we don't have their input in the process? The committee needs to be reminded that Susan is new to the district and those on that committee They really know their community and the students. And that is such a key part in the development of a mission and a vision statement. Um, and really, this is the first step in creating a collaborative community of educators and learners. And this committee itself is really the foundation of all future committees in the school. And in order for them to lead by example, they must collaborate with one another and build those relationships. So it really boils down to this: alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much. Helen Keller.